Hello, thanks for joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria, your program where we put the searchlight on topical issues in the polity. My name is Benga Aruliba. The National Assembly is now on break after the two chambers voted on proposals to amend the Constitution. It will be for the fourth time since 1999. Now, as the lawmakers return to their constituencies, they will be faced with angry Nigerians, angry constituents, who, no doubt, will take them to task on some of the curious decisions they took last week. The two presiding officers of the Senate, Senate President Bukola Saraki and his deputy, the man who presided over the committee that prepared the groundwork for what happened last week, that's Senator Ike Ekweremadu, have both been speaking and offering excuses for the failure of the Senate to live up to the expectations of Nigerians on this very critical assignment. While the Senate President in Ilorin said the issues are not foreclosed yet, Ekweremadu, on the other hand, would rather find the culprits or those to be blamed outside of the hallowed chambers and not the senators, saying those making hate speeches were responsible for misunderstanding displayed by senators. Really? But the issues remain in the front burner of public discourse. That's where we keep them till the lawmakers return from their recess in 7 weeks' time or so. So, Dr. Sam Amadi, a notable voice in the human rights community, former executive chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, now a university teacher, will be joining me shortly for today's discussions on this same issue. But some quick takes on events that have happened since we left here last Friday. Let's start from the good ones. The release of the abducted 6 students of the Model College in Igbola, Ekpe, Lagos. That came exactly 65 days after the students were abducted from their school, putting the nation, particularly the parents of the students, through the most harrowing and traumatic experience in life. But thank God, all the students were rescued alive from the abductors who had relocated them from Lagos to the creeks in Ondo State, where they were eventually released. And hopefully, the arrested kidnappers will soon have their days in the dock. All right, and the sad ones, the abduction of 4 staff of the University of Maiduguri by Boko Haram terrorists who ambushed a team involved in oil exploration activities around the Lake Chad Basin last week. Many of the team of scientists were killed by the Boko Haram during an operation by troops to liberate them. But the 3 of the 4 that have since been declared missing were seen in a video posted by the Boko Haram on Saturday, making a passionate appeal for their release.
I want to call on the acting president, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, to come to our rescue to meet the demand of soldiers of Khalifa under the leadership of Abu Musab al-Barnawi. They have promised us that if their demands are met, they will release us immediately to go back to the work we were caught doing. We were captured doing the work of exploration, of acquiring gravity, magnetic and soil geochemistry for exploration in the Nigerian sector of the Chad Basin, which will boost the economy of the nation. We were caught in the line of our service. I want to call the attention of the acting president that we have seen the route we took up to this position where we are recording this video right now.
So much intrigue there, but the acting president, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, has already directed the military to get on top of the situation and bring the current resurgence of Boko Haram activities under control. And this last one, well, it's a timely warning from here to all men and women of good conscience. Again, Igbo leaders of thought, politicians from the southeast who are currently not saying much as the IPOB man, that's how I will call him, the IPOB man, Nnamdi Kanu, begins yet another journey to perdition with his current nationwide tours and shutting downs of cities in the southeast and south. Now, why issuing threats all over the place as well? This young man, for days and weeks now, have been carrying on a complete disregard for the laws of the land, a complete disregard for the fact that he is still standing trial and he has only been granted bail, yes, maybe on stringent conditions, but which he has not appealed against. And so, in the eyes of the law, that bail remains valid and that order remains a valid order of the court. His latest visit to Ebonyi State, where, but for the majority of the police, lives would have been lost. Nnamdi Kanu has continued to issue threats not to allow elections hold in the southeast. Anambra is coming up. He has said that Anambra will not know peace and there will be no election, and nobody is calling him to order yet. Yet we are in a state of order. Now, this clip, just look at this clip and well, make up your mind as to whether this guy is doing the right thing and whether those who are keeping quiet now are also helping him.
I beg, shoot! I'm begging you to shoot! 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 Give me a man!
You had them there daring the police to shoot them and all of that. Here is a man whom the court said must not be seen in a gathering of more than 10 people, must not address rallies. He's been going from one city to another, shutting down those cities. Anyway, this is just a warning to all those who can call this young man to order to do so at this particular time, coming against the background of reports that he's already planning to take this crazy misadventure to Lagos, of all places. Well, a word they say is enough for the wise. Let's take a break, and when I return, Dr. Sam Amadi will be here. And if you like to abuse me this morning because I'm asking you to call Nnamdi Kanu to order, so be it. But I'll be right back with Dr. Sam Amadi after this short break.
They see chaos and conflicts. We see community action for good governance. They see poverty and want. We see perseverance and the will to go on. They see economic law. We see the ingenuity and creative spirit of our people. We are AIT News, fresh, authentic views of Africa. How would you rather see the world? AIT News, all sides, all the time.
Okay, if you're just joining us, a very warm welcome to you. Dr. Sam Amadi is here, constitutional law teacher at Bayes University here in Abuja, for the immediate past executive chairman, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. Dr. Magdi, good to see you.
Thank you, Gwenga.
Well, I don't know. Before I find out what to feel, it's like our leaders are regretting their actions or maybe trying to offer excuses as usual. Saraki, mistrust, triggered by hate speeches, caused rejection of power devolution bill. Is that so? Okay. So it's hate speeches that cause all of that. Saraki, Senate may revisit restructuring. Where's that of Kuremadu? Okay, maybe it's inside stuff. Dr. Amadi, are you one of those who were taken aback by the decisions that emanated from the National Assembly last week?
No, not at all. Taken
Why?
aback.
You were not surprised?
No, at all. Because really, the Senate, and this is not an opportunity to attack this present Senate, the National Assembly has lacked sufficient capacity in two ways. One, this deliberateness, the spirit of deliberation that is part of a legislative house is not sufficient in the National Assembly historically. What that means is that you have seen several laws are made without too much discussion. And if you watch proceedings this floor, actually, if you watch places like the U.S. Senate, sometimes proceedings last like 20 hours, 40 hours, 60 hours before closure. Sometimes senators come with charts, pie charts, PowerPoint projections, because they have benefited from the research of their staff, and they have also tapped into work by centers that are independent think tanks that have deliberated research on those issues. So, but our methodology, both the procedural rules of Senate and the attitude, and of course the character of people who are emerged as senators, with due respect, they're not extremely different, stupid, wicked, or criminal, but just that the people who have not applied themselves to the rigor of thinking and deliberation. The executive governor, probably you made for your business, the people love you, they voted for you, you made money, leveraging on that opportunity of being a governor for 8 years, you come to the Senate. So nothing has exposed you to the practice, the statecraft, the craft of deliberation, of aggregating opinion. So suddenly you are thrust at the most hallowed chamber of the Senate, and this kind of this is a game-changing bill. And then naturally you treat it in the normal way. So first and foremost, I wasn't surprised because the kind of decisions we make in Nigeria, even both executive and legislature, but more so now legislature because they make rules, are such that we make without serious sense of their impact in the future. That's one. Two, the Nigerian Senate has always acted, National Assembly basically, like bulwark. They act like media, like civil society, or like somebody who is opinionated. I give an example. When we were in Senate, we were in the NEC. Somebody, a senator came back from Kaduna, saw newspaper, Daily Trust, NEC, to share 20 billion, 2 billion. He confessed, he walked straight with that newspaper, went to the floor of the Senate, and got a resolution. And when we met him, he said, and that was all fake, that no relevance, and went through a huddle of 3 months of prophetic document. At the end of the report came, said they did nothing wrong, paying their money. That gives you the background. So for me, I wasn't surprised. And thirdly, hot political potato. This is hot issue. Devolution of power is an issue that is beyond the legislative process. The National Assembly should have waited to wait out a big, robust political discussion. And then those political discussions will now filter into the National Assembly, so that there will be no regret a morning after you are regretting that we should have done it better. No, that shows some sense of lack of serious commitment and even serious understanding of the crisis. The issue of devolution is an issue at the heart of Nigeria. In fact, it's even extra constitutional. It requires some degree of, if you like, a national conference. It might not be sovereign or not sovereign, or even by a congressional commission, if like abroad. The National Assembly should set up a commission, not the legislators.
Will it be absence of materials that led them into that kind of hasty and kind of awkward decision? Because as recent as 2014, a national confab was convoked. The issue of devolution of power was one of the issues trashed out. So there's no dearth of materials on that issue. Before 2014, there had been so many other commission reports. So it's not a question of whether the senators lacked the requisite materials from where they could easily condense the views of Nigerians express on those issues?
You know, the debate around restructuring Nigeria has been like a conversation among the deaf and dumb. People hold a view, especially from the south. People on the other side, based on maybe advantage, hold a different view. What you expect is that now with that view, those views are converging slowly. People like Atiku them are strongly.
Yeah, but the views have converged in so many of those reports.
Yes,
That's
but
what I'm saying.
the point is that first of all, that report has been badly delegitimized by the government. When they come, they say, "Oh, this is a southern coup." So you have already delegitimized that report. That's number one. But I agree with you. But more importantly is that they see, like what the senior president that says, because of hate speech and lack of trust. So they see this debate as open and closed. These guys want this, we don't want it. Bam, bam, it's closed. But the danger is that this is the most important time that Nigeria has witnessed the greatest degree of intensity of disagreement over Nigeria. Like I have said before, even before the war, we didn't have this degree of multiple centers of disagreement. People are arguing, people are not happy with each other. So what you expect, minimum expectation for the National Assembly, is that they will not easily, that's the point I'm making. This matter should have waited for a longer period of discussion, even among themselves. The committee went to Lagos, had a retreat, and maybe sealed a proposition and came. That's one. Two, the senators themselves should have also had some sense of public interest, that this matter is not going to be, it's like they waylaid the nation on the way and shut down the debate. So it's like a trump card. Okay, we have the number. Bam, dead on arrival. But it's not dead. It's actually, what you have done is to create a more dangerous dimension. You have voted for people on the streets. You have authorized street action instead of opening up exactly. You open up an institutionalized process to moderate those agitations in the street. So what I think that National Assembly, by acting knee-jerk, by acting without a sense of political accountability, they have kind of outsourced their responsibility to organize, coordinate, and modulate this debate and handed it over to a non-institutionalized platform, whether IPOB, whether the human rights people, whatever it is, because this is a strong argument that it can't just vote out by 48 or 45 over 50. It's a strong argument that you must have to create a plenary platform for people. So my suggestion would have been, keep the matter there, keep debating it, don't rush to conclude the vote. And now they want to open it up. Two things have happened. I think they should open it up again, but don't open it up again and then try to force a vote. Open it up and sustain a conversation. Ask questions. For example, talk about the situation. What is it? It says distrust. What does it mean? What are the ingredients? What items are to be devolved? And because of that, what's the impact, both on physical impact and of course on governance? So when you generate those research and then you listen to what people are saying, they'll be able to, ultimately they will vote, and their vote will be based on preference, as we know the theory of legislative voting. But essentially it will be a preference informed by a rigorous debate. That's really the first challenge they have with what they've done.
Isn't this the opportunity that they need to do all of that? Now they are on recess.
Exactly.
Shouldn't each of these lawmakers have taken it as a take-home assignment for them to try to keep the conversation going at their different constituencies, if in actual fact it was the views of the people out there that you were listening to? Because I mean, like the Senate president said, is that their views were influenced largely
by hate speech.
By hate speech and all of that. Is that not this the opportunity for them to go back and listen again to their constituents?
You know, this is a very good point to make, because you see, the whole theory of legislator, from Bentham, is that they are trustees of the people. Now, being trustees, it means that they carry the people's preference, votes, and ideas. So now that I recess, and let me give you an example. They have a model with Ken Namani during the third term.
Yeah.
What happened? That they asked everyone to go to your constituencies,
go to your
talk
constituency,
to them,
and
exactly.
get their views on,
exactly.
and bring evidence of it.
I was a special advisor, and I was part of that, the whole structure. And I made a point, which Ken did very well, is that everybody will come there and answer his father's name. He gave everybody opportunity to speak. Everybody spoke. It took 3 days, like I told you,
to do all of that.
To do that, over 98 hours of deliberation. So when people are voting, their vote is informed, their vote is reasoned, and their vote is claimed to be representative of the views they have aggregated from their constituency. Now, it's just like those who want yes, the president, no, yes. So end of the day, they probably didn't have opportunity to hear their other colleagues make a point why this should happen. So I think that they should first go back, listen to what the people are saying, and then come back, even if they're going to vote no again. Nigerians would like to see the deliberation. Nigerians would like to watch it live, hear, and then, you see, modern government is argumentative, like I said. That means when you are saying no, some Amadu who thinks yes will say, oh, maybe he's right. We keep changing our views, and that's how to cure the hate speech. Hate speech arises in the vacuum of no speech. Leaders say nothing. We presume that the reason why they removed this Ajokuta, put it here, is because of this. If today you allocate a budget and there's no Southeast Road on that budget, I sit in my house somewhere said and conclude that it's because Buhari said 95 and 95%. But if government was talking, if you are providing reasoning, then people who feel otherwise will have a sense in which they will say, I get a point. So 2 points I want to make very strongly is that first, legislators are trustees, and therefore it's an ethical failure if they do not make effort to hear what the people are saying. 2, legislators, under the theory of deliberative democracy, they are deliberators. So when they are arguing, those of us who have already formed opinion shift our views. We say, I think Senator Kurumade is correct on this point. I really thought this makes sense. So the whole idea of sustaining a debate and perhaps getting AIT or channels to run it live, like you have C-SPAN, is that citizen, you see, modern democracy is a conversation among the leaders and the governed. So everybody's watching and listening. And then when you finally make a vote that we don't agree with, we see how you came to that vote.
Exactly.
So we don't take it personal and say, oh, these thieves or these people, they don't see what. We know that, look, it's a matter of conflict of interest, conflict of ideas. We didn't have the same ideas, and these people voted what they thought was their best view of their constituency. So now it's another opportunity. Go back to your constituency. Take it slowly. Don't, this idea of output. We passed 20 bills. What's the value of those 20 bills? There's no point claiming that we were the first or the second to have wrapped up a constitutional amendment, either the amendment sets us behind in fact, the previous amendments have done nothing. We amend INEC rules, then another problem comes to cover that our amendment is actually the cause of a problem because it didn't properly theorize. We don't make laws. That's why constitutions and theories have come that constitutions that are amended more often are the most unstable, and they create unstable politics. Because those constitutional amendments becomes, token. It's a kind of political give and take. So when, for example, immunity, which makes sense, somebody can now say, okay, fine, why don't we have legislative, for example, the whole issue of local government, why do you have to entrench local government autonomy? The Supreme Court gave a ruling and said, look, local government is under the business of the state. And the constitution is, we need to cure the constitutional incoherence. You can't have a federation of state and local and federal, and then state, federal, local. I mean, that's probably Nigeria's addition to global knowledge about democracy. But essentially, instead of now dealing with that, you are tying it up, the confusion more, by saying, okay, fine, you want to entrench local government to have its autonomy, perhaps a fallout of politics between governors and legislators.
You are saying they should have local government, you are saying they should have autonomy, and yet you are saddling a federal body with the responsibility of conducting elections.
How does that? You want us to have a sense of localized governance. At the same time, you are transporting a federal agency that has not even justified its own efficiency. Let's face it, forget we are happy that the outcome of 2016 election. It is diagnostic shows that INEC probably didn't even do well enough. But the fact that wanted a change after 16 years, it was courageous to reject a ruling party. It doesn't mean that the elections were free and fair, it doesn't mean the elections are properly conducted. So now we want to just, put it back to every local government. And at the same time, we want to create a accountable local governance. So there are inconsistencies. So that tells you that the whole thing driving it is ad hoc assessment of political interest. So if this issue comes out, people are arguing, our government gives these people a bigger deal. So if you strengthen it, increase it, they get better. Some people say, no, make it state. By the way, so those are deep debates that touch on a sense of justice. And the least you expect is that whoever is going to make the decision will be rigorous.
Considering the way this present National Assembly is composed, this kind of rigorous debate that is expected or that we need on all of these issues, can we then trust this National Assembly with this assignment of at least restructuring or at least dousing some of the national tensions along these agitations?
Well, I think
Is it possible?
Yeah, it depends on if they can be altruistic.
Can they rise up to that challenge?
Well, would they say? Let's be fair. Scientifically assessment with the pedigree of people, their capacity, nothing to put them down. But as a fact of the matter, I think it might be too much faith thinking that they will rise suddenly, become Hercules, and rise above all their limitations and political limitations. Even we have seen in Nigeria that even the wisest of us, the best of us, get totally stupid when they get to power. You know, we see people who advocated for restructuring last night, and now they are saying different things. So I have no such faith that they would do that. But it's better that we don't have faith in this. But the key point is this: it looks like the big debate over Nigeria. The big debate over Nigeria will be resolved via an extra constitutional platform.
Extra constitutional,
because if you look at the extra legislative and constitutional, what I mean by that is that the constitution is a problem in Nigeria.
Yes.
You want to solve that problem. So passing it through a constitutional amendment, if the challenge was all those other small issues, the legislative process can solve. But if the idea is the privilege that constitution has even created, so for example, people who are agitated, it's like political Trump. Let's assume the South, Southeast, Southwest have a beef against Nigeria. Basically, they are lost. They will eternally lose that in the power configuration. They need the goodwill, generosity of the North to get into power. And that's what happened in the US. We see it all the time. Then the Supreme Court, the judiciary exists as the one who supervises that arrangement. So, okay, fine. If the political process is blocked, we will unblock it. Our own court is not like that. So in Nigeria, therefore, what is happening now perhaps calls for a constitutional conference, a sovereign, whatever you call it. We can conclude before 2019. All you need is get the people to now look beyond the constitutional. Because if you say the vote in the National Assembly will be based on this, and the people stick to the structure, then you end up reinforcing the structure. Yeah. The challenge is at the heart of the Constitution. Yeah. Is a Constitution that creates, either intentionally or by consequence, a state of inequality. We're not equal. A state where people can be equal. Then people are challenging it. Then I think it doesn't make sense to say that the only way to solve it is to get into a gridlock of the same institution they're challenging. So maybe this is a time for the National Assembly. Like I said, create a binational assembly commission. And why commission? Commission is independent, not made up for legislators, people who have credibility in the society. Like 9/11, had a congressional binational commission. The idea is to go and say, look, we create a no-partisan or bipartisan platform, appoint people outside, let them go and conduct a real conversation, real brainstorming among the Nigerian ethnic group. These two issues that we will now collectively, and say, okay, they need to change Nigeria, we need to become regional, we sign off. If we want to keep it to a National Assembly platform, where by votes, you can see what has happened. All the issues were voted along ethnic and regional lines. Now, if those votes continue, it creates a sense of inevitability.
Déjà vu.
Exactly. And the people who are agitated from the outside will now lose confidence in the institutional process to resolve their crisis.
And then that means you have ceded the control of the process to the streets again, like you said.
That's the point I'm saying, and that's the point with Africa. We have
because that would then be the only place to settle it.
Absolutely. So if our system cannot resolve issues of essentialist issues about how should we conduct ourselves, how do we start as a people, then you are empowering hatred, violence, and all kinds of instability. So my view would have been the two things to do. If the National Assembly can be generous enough and say, look, these people are talking about the structure. They really want to see a less strong center, because that center is somehow skewed against some interests, or they want to redesign Nigeria in a way that maybe will have equality of units or whatever it is. The critical thing is that Nigerians do not think that the constitutional order that's governing the country is good enough. And then if it's not good enough, it's not a case of perish. If we now go through a vote and it turns out the same way it turns out, assuming they go the second time again and it turns out the same time, people will lose confidence in the National Assembly. And then what they will now do is that they'll be demanding for extra constitutional resolution, either a sovereign conference or referendum or some kind of unanticipated political action. So my view, exactly. So my view is
secession bids and
absolutely.
All of that.
My view is that statesmanship will require that the National Assembly reclaim the legitimacy, the authority to resolve the issue. And the only way they can do it,
and the momentum that they have.
And the only way they can do it is to show that they are beyond the the limitations, the gridlock of politics.
Is this a national assignment where you can begin to raise the issue of money
not even available?
Exactly, because I had a guest here last week who was one of the consultants to the National Assembly Committee, and he raised the issue of fund, that the fund wasn't there. And we're talking of a National Assembly whose budget this year has even increased substantially, let me not say substantially, at least by 15 billion over what it was last year. If in the last National Assembly, where the budget was not that much, they still had at least over 4 billion voted for that exercise. I mean, I don't know. Is this an issue where people cannot bend over backward in national service?
No, I think they can. But the first question is money for what? You know,
That's
when people come and say money
to make
we need
law?
money for what? For example, going to retreats for National Assembly people, is it necessary? Everything can happen here in Abuja. It's not the National Assembly people who need to do this. It's the people who need to come to National Assembly with submissions. So what do you need money for? And that's another thing. I think the funding agencies have destroyed Nigeria. I used to tell people that when they bring money for everything, money. So without money, you can't do anything. You see, private fund carried out public funding. So everybody's looking for money, intervention from EU, INEC. We can't do elections except EU give us money. That is destroying a national capability and competence. Why can't we have an institution in the National Assembly with the same salary they collect and everything? Have regular consultation with groups. Have a small bureaucracy, a staff that gets this, and get experts who volunteer. For example, when people appear in Congress in America, nobody pays them to go there. If the Assembly says, somebody come today, wouldn't I go? We'll go there. So, but the problem is that when you're talking about, okay, we want to take 100 legislators to a retreat in Calabar to discuss, what are they retreating for? That's not what the job is. So basically, the question about resources is resources for what? The work that can be done effectively does not require so much money. It does not require. And even if it requires money, that money is available, like you said, either from their own, some environment can happen and get it done. Look at the Ken Naman Committee on Electoral Reform. All the work they did is like, it's gone with the wind. It's not even being mentioned. Whether the issues are there, nobody cares. So what I see is Nigerians are still trapped in politics and not in governance. We need a moment of freeze on politicking and say, look, there's a national crisis. Let's come together. Let's create a platform that is sensible, that we are hearing each other. What we're doing is like, I say no talk. I don't want it. So we're just like holding each other at siege. So everybody's saying their own. No, we need to talk together. And the National Assembly is a very strong institution. It has a bureaucracy. All they need is a new orientation to say, look, this problem is not about votes and say we have finished this, we have finished that. It's more about doing something that can last the time. Say we are doing this, this is the process we need to get a closure. So my first view is, first and foremost, go back to constituencies. Take time off, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, go to the people, and then go to other constituencies and say what they're saying. Second stage, invite some of these core people who are propagating these various groups, the Afenifere, the Ohaneses. Let them come and meet with the National Assembly Committee responsible for that, and then hear them properly. Third stage is now you televise a debate. If you ask me, I would like the National Assembly debate over this matter, not to be by vote. There should be sustained 2-3 days debate, because essentially, this is an area we've not gone before. People are talking about, what do they mean? People say this is good, what do they mean? Nobody knows what each person is saying. Yeah. We need to spend some time. And then finally, when you now vote for it, you vote with a sense of history, a sense that the vote does not solve the problem. That if that vote does not largely address a concern of people in the streets, the street walk may continue in spite of the vote. So you vote in a manner that you can deflect and demobilize this gathering street walk. So that's really the way to go.
Because if you take an issue or like an item like the Land Use Act, for instance, NYSC Act, and the proposal to remove them from the constitution, not to abrogate them, because that's part of the problem. Either people misconstrue them, meaning they misconstrue them to mean that we are abrogating them. Whereas the proposal is to remove them from the constitution, where they enjoy that
immunity, that
makes it
constitutional
makes
protection.
it difficult to want to either fine-tune them or make them respond to modern day reality and all of that. We need to senators who are opposed to that kind of a thing need to speak up and tell Nigerians what the fears are. Because the kind of things they say off camera are things that just shock you. But there are things that probably if they say, voice them out, and they hear the counter argument to it, like you said, we'll be making a lot of progress.
Absolutely. That's what I talk about.
And that can only happen when there is that sustained discussion.
Absolutely. That's why I said the modern state will be an argumentative state. What are we argumentative? You don't just tell people no, you argue, you tell them why. You see, today people are all empowered. Every day, Facebook, there are all kinds of dangerous communications going on. So a state must now develop rhetorical power. You go there and say, this is why we are not going this way. There are many things they did that are very good. For example, the issue about age, people are happy with it. You explain why they did it. Some things, in fact, if you ask me, a constitutional amendment should actually be to remove many of the items from the Constitution. The Constitution should be a basic document about policy, direction, and issues about devolution, the structure of government. Simple. All these entrenched provisions about NYS, why should anybody create an agency and put in the Constitution? It doesn't make any sense, except very few agencies. In fact, they should not be in the Constitution. The so-called federal agencies that will put in the Constitution and make their Constitution, their appointments, everything constitutional, so that you have to go through, that's wrong. Every issue that requires occasional change, dynamism, that means if we get more insight, we change it. Don't put in the Constitution. Because evidence has shown statistically that countries that amend their Constitution too often have political instability. And the argument is very simple. You see, if you amend their Constitution, it creates the sense, the perception, the incentive that each time there's a conflict, we'll go to Constitution. So people don't, it's actually a perverse incentive. So that means instead of us to work our Constitution well, we hope for amendment. Instead of us to allow the courts to deal with some of the gray areas, the American Constitution is actually a product of the courts. A few, but every constitutional doctrine without constitutional is actually created by the court. That creates a much more stable polity. People have good faith engagement. They want to struggle with issues rather than going to constitutional amending and creating faith accompli for other people. Yeah. But once we start...
One had, on the issue of local government, for instance, one had expected that whatever constitutional amendment you are going to make on local government should have been along the line of the Supreme Court judgment on what local government should look like.
Absolutely. So you just forget, don't institutionalize local government boundaries into the, just say, okay, these are the states. The local government said they can create as they like. That should be more like it. So you create dynamism for politics, governance. So people are trying to solve problems politically instead of solving them all the time constitutionally. Going back to constitution, investing in a fight over document, and then the majority group blocking the minority, and then therefore creating a fait accompli, and the minority going back to acts of aggression. But if we free the constitution and make it basic, and then most of these issues are political, we sit down, we debate, we negotiate, we trade off, we give and take. That's how you govern. So putting everything in the constitution is actually creating lack of governance. It destroys the lack of, we don't acquire capacity to negotiate, to become statesmen, because everything will now go to the court or go to the constitution. And when you say, oh, Section 5 has closed it, it doesn't make sense. So the first thing I would have seen is a reduced constitutional document. Then go to the basic issue. For example, the issue of religion in Nigerian constitution. Big issue. Why should we be struggling over balancing Christian and Muslim all the time? Why don't we just scrap it off? And
why should a president of a country flag off a pilgrim's?
Why should you have a pilgrim anything? Why should you have a court?
To flag off a pilgrim, lifting of pilgrimage. A country's president flags.
You don't have to do that. So those are the things that Nigeria want to argue. Do we really want to be a modern democratic state, or do we want to be a multi-religious state? If you ask me, every multi-religious state, especially where there is strong, emphatic religion like Christianity and Muslim, these are global evangelical religions trying to convert everybody. You are going to have an unstable state. Put it away. Create a modern democratic secular state. So those are the issues that the constitution can deal with. The other issues, peripheral issues around whether there should be women, 35% for women, really big issue, but essentially not a constitutional issue. I think a issue that there should be a policy. When Jonathan came close to 35 or thereabout, there was no constitution. It has to do with the psychology, the temperament, and the politics of the ruling elite at any time. So yes, for now, it's a victory for women, it's 35, but you discover that maybe small time, the people who are living with disability will come up rightly too with a requirement for a percentage, then special groups, youth will come, and so on and so forth. So I think we should not be behaving as if we are living in an island, not not benefiting from the experience of other people all over the world. Smaller constitution with a much more rigorous way of amendment. And then the amendment the U.S. Constitution amendments, before they were ratified, some of the amendments, 27 amendments in 220-something years of the U.S. Constitution. Some of them took 50 years before they got ratification. Process of, because it changes the whole structure of the society. And therefore, you don't want to make those decisions in a hurry. You want to make them through deep consultation, intersubjectivity, too much deliberation. So I don't agree with Senator Obi. I agree with, they argue among themselves. We, the people too, watch them, and then we argue. We say, look, maybe we are wrong, maybe we are right. And then somehow we create confidence. And you know how it works? Process is more important than the outcome. If people believe that the process for making those votes are deep, sympathetic to their concern, but the votes didn't favor them, they're more likely accept the outcome. If people thought it was a highway robbery, somebody waylaid the train, the amendment train, and cut it short, they feel, oh, you're using your numeric strength, and therefore, you know what? To attend to all Israel. So this is a sensitive issue, and the way we manage it can create political capital for those in power to contain the restiveness or erode those capital.
Of course, the next question will be, how will all of this work out when you have a country's constitution where at the time you have about 33 bills proposing amendment? I'm still wondering how all of this will end. Whether each of those bills will have to pass as a bill, and each bill will have to be signed. I really still don't understand how it's going to work out. But let me read some tweets first, and then we'll pick up from there. Negedu Victor James, these NAS are there for personal and future gains and not for the locality. Nigerians will stand against them soon. That's Negedu Victor James. Is also saying NAS that creates law that oppose Supreme Court judgments. Okay. Arthur Stip says the current agitation in the southeast is as a result of no visible federal government plans for the southeasterners. No job, no project. Negedu Victor James again. For me, I think our lawmakers should go through legislative studies to understand their roles in National Assembly. Chidi Bernard says, good morning, Benga. Tell the APC-led government and elected leaders to do good for the masses, not to be issuing warnings to a freedom fighter. Who is the freedom fighter? Nnamdi Kanu. You are sitting on a very long thing, my brother. Negedu Victor again. Look at what has been going. Okay, look at what has been going on in the U.S. Congress and compare what our so-called lawmakers are doing now. Cecilia Okoroma. Okay, that's number 2. Okay, let me read number 1. Number 1 is IPOD. Nnamdi Kanu's action is rubbishing the entire security apparatus of Nigeria, the military, the police, the NDSC, etc. And 2, imagine IPOD rubbishing Ohanaeze Ndigbo too, encouraging hungry youths from other states to create chaos and disharmony. All right, it's a very touchy one. That's why sometimes I take my time before I comment on IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu. But what has been going on in this couple of days, I think it's just not ideal. One man shutting down cities and we are hailing him. Even the media is guilty of hailing him. Oh, IPOB shuts down Port Harcourt. IPOB shuts down Abakaliki. IPOB shuts down Enugu.
Yeah, but that's the media. The same way we heard Trump.
We're not helping the man. We're not helping the young man.
Media likes sensation.
He says he has been created. The only reason God created him is to come and actualize Biafra. Okay. I'd bring back our guests. I share Dr. Amadi's views that the constitutional issues will probably be best resolved by an extra constitutional body. How do we achieve that? I'm still coming back to you on that. How do we set up that extra constitutional body? And how do we allay the fears of those who are holding positions created by the Constitution that we want to do away with? How do we allay their fears that we are not trying to restructure them out of existence,
exactly.
Out of power? A.K. Sebastian Jr., is the Senate amending the Constitution because it's right and due, or because they want to be praised for being the first Senate to get to this level? Ballistic EPL loading. When Sam Amadi spoke about INEC and the last general election, he wasn't sounding like an analyst. Kanu will get what he's looking for. Okay, what is he looking for? Trouble? Ismaila Jubrin. Dr. Amadi and Benga, senators should be taught green button is yes, while red is no. A lot of them didn't press the red button. Okay. Then Sunday Wallaby on devolution, when representatives of the people misrepresent the views of the people, they become misrepresentatives. I agree with you. And then Joseph Marcus, we saw the video clip on iPod. Show us the clip of the Northern Governors meeting Arewa used when they could not arrest them. I will talk about that one tomorrow. The same people that the police declare wanted, their political leaders are meeting with them and trying to pacify people who ordinarily should have been arrested since. You are right. I just saw it this morning, but don't worry. I don't have any dog in this fight, so I'm going to hit everybody equally. Larry, Mr. Gbenga, I think Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer need to call him to order before federal government rearrest him. God bless Nigeria. All right, Sam, let's get back to the discussions. First, let's thrash out the issue of how do we evolve this extra constitutional means or extra
constitutional
body to
Okay.
look at all of these issues.
Okay, let me crave indulgence to react quickly to the INEC issue. I think he misunderstood me. You know, Nigeria would like to romanticize. Nothing is perfect. I expect by now there should be a real report on INEC. For example, the same INEC officers are facing trial for corruption,
Yes,
inducement
for
by
collecting
the
bribes
Dizeni and
that.
all that. That means they're not the perfect institution. So my argument is that, yes, we saw the courage of Jega and the fact that, and we're happy with the outcome. I think after 16 years, a ruling party should lose power. It creates its own good sense that power can be lost and gained. But the point is, don't carry INEC and assume that they will do a perfect job in every local government. Build state electoral systems, build even local government electoral systems so that we don't, that's the point. So now back to the real question you raised. I sympathize with the National Assembly, and truly they're the ones who have the legitimacy today by virtue of election to determine Nigerian legislative.
Because that has
framework.
always been the argument,
That's the argument,
against,
and they are totally correct.
against sovereign national conference.
They are right. You see, a sovereign national conference is a explicit statement that the political institution is not working. Because why fix it if it's not bad? So if we say we want a sovereign, that means there's something in our constitutional order that following the process cannot solve. You see, they said it's only a madman who repeatedly does the same thing, expecting different goal. So if people say want a sovereign, the question is, do they truly want it? That's the first question. That must be rigor. Are we sure that this constitution is not working? If it is yes, are we sure that this constitution cannot work? Are we sure that the structure of Nigerian state, people have said there's a fraud in the Lugadian, what they call the Lugadian constitution. The Tononades of this world have built big theory around why this is a fraud. I will not go that extent, but the point I'm making is this. National Assembly can create it themselves. They can trigger a body. That's why I said, just like a congressional commission, in this case, a National Assembly commission, and say, look, we discover that there's so much anger everywhere. There's challenges against this constitution. And we ourselves are a question of constitution. And we cannot sit here and amend it in the normal way. Why don't first we create an extra body, not made up of legislators, not honorable members, legislators, but people drawn out of the country through some sensible way. For example, people are not politicians. Let them take a year, 6 months, and study, go around and create a body of material that suggests what can be done. Now, the essence of that is that it gives you a sense that that body can now be used to, National Assembly will first create a legal authorization. So this is not like INEC, IPOB, or HANESE, or FERIFERI, or SOPIN. National Assembly created it. So it's legal, it follows from the legal process. 2, they are going to report back to the National Assembly with a finding that they cannot use to make rules or change the constitution. That's one mode. The second mode is for the executive. The 2 people can do this. Executive to come, just like President Jonathan created this constitutional conference. And then that report at the constitutional conference can now lead to saying, let's create a new constitutional order. So within a government, you can have a constitution drafting committee within a government that can create a new constitution passing through the National Assembly. The legal implications can be worked out. The other 2 authorities that if you don't go this way, what you get is that you are going to force every one of us to go through the existing framework today, which is the outcome we have seen. Yeah. There's no magic that this outcome will change in the next wave of sitting, because the legislators themselves, they are political actors. Some of them want to run elections. Some of them are agents of those who are powerful. So when they vote, it's a matter of vote. Those who have more votes will vote out those who have less votes. So the theory, for me as a constitutional scholar, I will ask myself, how do we deal with people's will? If people want something and they can't get it through the legislative process because the votes are stacked against them, would they take it as fait accompli. Like the Supreme Court is not final because it's wiser. It's final.
Because it's the last court.
It's the last court. So would they go home and say, well, the people have spoken through the legislator, whereas the people are speaking say, we don't want this. So the only way to resolve it is for the same people to now expand it by themselves and say, okay, let's hear what the people are saying. Or alternatively, you get to the revolution where regions will now come together, pass their own regional resolutions and say, we demand that the federation dissolve forthwith. Sheikh has replied to the acting president when he says Nigeria is non-negotiable. It's true. When Constitution says it's non-negotiable, indissoluble, that is within the constitutional framework. And the Supreme Court have said that when the military took over government, they say their success now creates a new constitutional order. If the people themselves overthrow their constitution, then they inaugurate a new constitutional order based on we, the people. To avoid that, National Assembly can structure a bipartisan commission.
With what we are seeing now and what had happened in the past, is it not becoming obvious that no serious constitutional amendment can actually take place? We will continue to have only tokenism at the end of the day, because by the time all of this final work of the National Assembly gets to the state are still going to have their input into it, and some of the few that has managed to escape from the
will be shut down.
Will definitely be shut down, and those will be the critical areas of restructuring that we're talking about. At the end of the day, what we just have is one dot here, one cross here, one comma here, and that's it.
Totally
in spite of all the money that it would have come.
Totally correct, Wenga. I mean, what you said is brilliant, because end of the day, people forget that we're going to go around like a circuit show.
Yes.
But the point is, and that's why I said, let the politics grow before the legislative action. If you amend something today and that there's no consciousness, for example, if you amend now to say male and female gender equality, assuming the constitution now says no religion is mentioned in Nigeria, okay, that Sharia Court of Appeal is abolished hereby, assuming they can ever vote, and you take it across Nigeria, which of the northern states will vote for it? It's dead on arrival. Yeah. That is why the aperture that constitutional amendment gives is very tiny.
I'm still waiting for which state house of assembly will vote for local government autonomy.
Because if surprisingly, in fact, state of assemblies will never vote for their state assembly autonomy. Even though it's their own benefit, because they want to the next election. So the point therefore is, if this crisis keep on festering, it will be fully hardy to assume that this small gridlock called constitutional amendment can solve it. That is why you need to go extra constitutional measure. And the National Assembly can actually make it less chaotic by being the one authorizing and then sitting back to receive it. And then in a way, the magic is, this constitution, will it be overthrown? How do you do it? Nothing short of amending the constitution to include a referendum and throwing it up for a referendum through a sovereign national conference or whatever will solve the problem. We are in a tight situation, because even if you create this my so-called congressional commission, they finish their work, they'll still bring it to the constitution, National Assembly will still run it through the states, and it will be torpedoed. The only way is that let's go and communicate with the people. Let's create a political ownership of this change. If you don't create it, the next is a revolution. This institutional process cannot do more than they are authorized to do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Amadi. Let me end with a few of the tweets that are coming up now. Iro says, do they actually vote in the House with that thing they do with the yay or nay thing? And then Chuku Simon says, good morning, Ogaji. Sir, our senators and reps are just gaining more power. I pray that what happened in Ghana by J.J. Rowling does not happen in Nigeria. We pray so to Iro again. We take every garbage these so-called House members throws at us, knowing full well that it would have no impact on the society. James Palm, Dr. Sam Amadi is eloquent. We need a new, smaller constitution that provides equality and freedom for all of us. Opeyemi Yek, your guest today is very intelligent. He suggested that our leaders should freeze politicking and focus on good governance. Yes, he says so. And the problem we have in this country is basically with the followers. That's Iro as well. All right. Thank you for all of the tweets. Okay, my boy. Those who make devolution and restructuring via legislative means impossible make Gideon Orka's solution inevitable. I know what that means. Complete balkanization of the country.
Blood chilling, eh? we will never get there.
I don't want to imagine that.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sam Abadi is a constitutional law teacher at Bayes University, the immediate past executive chairman of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Benga.
Enjoy the rest of the day too. Stay out of trouble, and then we'll see you tomorrow.